So thank you. I think we stopped here, page 70, the first few lines. So Sri Aurobindo beautifully describes how consciousness, when takes a mortal form, how it starts exploring the material existence. So this was very beautiful how he shares here towards the end of page 69. This is the sailor on the flow of time. This is world matter's slow discoverer. So the consciousness, which is itself beyond matter, uh, it is launched into its small corporeal birth. So as if, as I was sharing last time, I think Ramana Maharishi said that once you truly realize yourself, then still remaining in the human form is almost like an elephant, how it would feel when it would stay in a hut, how suffocated, how limited, and how difficult it would be for that elephant who knows that he is an elephant and who is living in a hut. And that's why, for us human beings, there is forgetfulness of the self. In the beginning, even avatars, when they take human form, they don't remember who they truly are. And I think it's one of the purpose, maybe because if you truly remember who you truly are, it would be very difficult for us to uh, really kind of be in the human form. So in that forgetfulness, there is a purpose in evolution. And slowly as we wake up through the challenges of life, through the happenings of life, which is prakriti, which is the play of prakriti, all the happenings of life, all the chance events, through that our consciousness grows, and slowly we are able to realize who we truly are. The more we become capable uh, of having that much of strength to realize who we truly are and yet remain in a human form. And that's why it's a lifetimes of a journey to really know who we truly are, but we can at least embark upon it. Yeah. And slowly the consciousness becomes comfortable, like how a little child explores his own little body. He's, if you have seen very little newborns or were just beginning to move their limbs a little, how the consciousness is now becoming used to the corporeal birth. It's like what it is like to touch water and what it is like to crawl on ground. So the consciousness which is launched into this small corporeal birth has learned this craft, his craft, in tiny base of self. And I think it also refers to how an ego evolves, like how we become an individual from a mass of social circumstances, how we create an individuality. And in the beginning, our only little comfort zones we want to explore, maybe go to the father, go to the relative, as a child would do. Maybe he would stay very close to people who he knows, as he's beginning to understand this world. And then slowly he begins to interact with strangers also. So in the beginning, he learned his craft in tiny base of self. So very comfortable areas, settled down zones. But dares at last unplumbed infinitudes. And as we evolve as a human being, we are now ready, like a teenager or a child or maybe a young adult in 20s. He feels ready to explore further than his family and relatives and his own country and wherever he was, culture, and wherever he was born and brought up. And this also refers to the global scenario of how we live as human consciousness. That first we were exploring earth, human beings were exploring earth, and then now we are feeling confident enough that we can also launch ourselves into the space out there, outside of earth, unplumbed infinitudes. And that also holds true for when we begin to go deeper within our own self. So not only outwardly in material universe, but when we go deeply in our own self, that also is unplumbed infinitudes. those infinitudes which have not been measured how deep they are, like there is no end to their depth. A voyager upon eternity's seas. In his world adventures crude initial start, behold him ignorant of his godhead's force. So in the beginning we don't know who we truly are. We don't know that we are the divine presence himself, and we are 24/7 that. And in other words, it would be that all of us are Buddha natured. All of us have enlightened nature. It's just that we don't know that much. Timid initiate of its vast design, an expert captain of a fragile craft. So, fragile because human form or any material form is very fragile when it comes to nature's forces. So, what is a 25-story building in front of a tsunami? Nothing. But it takes ages for a human being to accomplish that craft. And just like that, as a human body, it's very fragile human body, no matter how advanced science may become or medical science may become. Yet in front of death, human body is nothing. It's just a tinka, like a blade of grass, nothing else. But now we are slowly we are able to master the human body. Recently there was a pig heart transplanted into a human heart. So this is like slowly mastering the craft and also becoming more conscious, more aware of my bodily self. So an expert captain of a fragile craft, very fragile material universe, fleeting, a trafficker in small impermanent wares. At first he hugs the shore and shuns the breadths, dares not to affront the far off perilous main. So this also refers maybe to how we started initially as human beings. We started discovering lands, and there were seas and there were not many vehicles or ships available to us, and how along, just like Columbus started his own journey of discovering, he didn't know that he would be discovering North and South America, but he embarked on this voyage, first staying close to the shores and then exploring what all is close to the shores. And in the beginning, a trafficker in small impermanent wares, also referring to our human journey as our little happinesses. In the beginning, as we are developing, we want a house. That's our desire. That's it. We want to have our own house. It matters. We don't want a rented house. We would like to have our own house, and that means a lot on our journey. All of us have that experience of buying our own house. And so although I am journeying uh, from coast to coast, where I'm journeying forward, yet I'm dealing with very impermanent wares. So I'm making an exchange bargain for impermanent wares. It's fleeting. These happinesses which come through buying a property or buying little something or having admission in college, they mean a lot to us, but they're so impermanent and fleeting. Hmm? At first he hugs the shore and shuns the breadths. Now shore is something which is close to land, so that I don't have to go into the deep, into the ocean. So when I am trafficking or exchanging just the impermanent wares, which socially are also considered valuable, like having a job, having a house, living in a proper suburban or wherever you want to live, it's the shore. No, it's very safe zone, comfort zones. And I would shun the breadths. I would not want to plunge into deeper journeys, like unknown journeys in the unknown. Dares not to affront the far off perilous main. So the main part of the sea which is far away from any land, because land gives us the security that I will be safe here. But in that safety we dare not explore in the beginning. So like that, as a human being, we start with the evolution of our ego. So again, many references here and there. We can take it in so many different ways, but yeah, this is what is coming at the moment. So let's begin new lines, and please keep sharing if there comes anything, any reflection. So the new lines are in pink, and whoever feels ready. Please, on page number 70.
Yeah.
What is meaning of shuns the breadths?
Sorry?
What?
Shuns the breadths.
Shuns the breadth. So, breadth is the wideness of the ocean,
Oh,
like the
okay.
depth of the ocean, the
Okay,
vastness of
okay.
the ocean. So, in the beginning, I remain very close to shore, which is very
Oh,
comfortable for me.
comfortable
And
and safe.
I'm shunning the breadth means I'm not plunging into the main part of the ocean. Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
He is in a petty coastal traffic plies. His pay doled out from port to neighbor port, content with his safe rounds unchanging course. He hazards not the new and the unseen, but now he hears the sound of larger seas.
Mm. So he in a petty coastal traffic plies. So coastal is, if you know, all of us know what is coast, like a line alongside the ocean, like a land part going on along the ocean. And uh, in the beginning, we dare not to go into the depth of the ocean. We stay very close to coast. So one coast may be like maybe 10 kilometers apart, like one station, and then 10 kilometers on the same coast. I'm going on and on and on, just horizontally in one line. And this is how I traffic, like this is how I journey as an individual. He in a petty coastal traffic plies. It's a very petty kind of a journey. Like it's not very expansive or vast or giving a lot of experience to me or taking me to depths. But again, it is a part of our journeys. That's how the consciousness becomes confident in, discovering this material universe. So in a petty coastal traffic plies from coast to coast, very staying very close to the land, his pay doled out from port to neighbor port. And we do get pay. Pay is something like a reward or a satisfaction that I get. So if I get into a college, I get some satisfaction. That's not the ultimate satisfaction, but there is some satisfaction there. We get married, again, a bit of satisfaction comes. That is a different part, that after marriage, another turbulence may come. But in the beginning, it's a very good pay, as if you get a reward or something, that now you have a partner. So when we go from one comfort zone to another comfort zone, what socially is considered materially viable, that okay, this is how you should be. First you get a job, you get a nice job, nice place to stay, then maybe a marriage, couple of kids. So very comfort zones as if created by the society. And we do get little momentary happinesses and satisfactions on these port to port. Content with his safe rounds unchanging course. So nothing's really is changing. I'm just following what the whole society follows as a human being. The journey that one follows. Go up, grow up. Go to a college, get a job, maybe travel one country, then come back. Settle down, have few kids. So content with his safe rounds unchanging course, he hazards not the new and the unseen. Very rare it is that one would shun all these comfort zones of the coastal areas and would do something which is totally unimaginable. Go out, and which is also risking one's life, because one doesn't know whether it'll be suiting us or not. But once in a while there is a call from out there, and we are compelled to go into the main depths of the ocean or chart our own individual journeys. But now he hears the sound of larger seas. So now, when I've gotten everything that the society considered viable, even then, our journey as a human being is from a perfection to a greater perfection, and something that we are looking for, we are seeking something. What is that something? We don't know. And that's why when there is a call, a greater call, we feel compelled to follow that call. So now when he's very settled with his coastal traffic and got out his, all the stuff, Now he feels, okay, now I'm confident enough, now I can journey into the main depths of the ocean. So he feels that call of the larger seas, areas and places which I have not yet traveled by myself. Also referring to our own consciousness, that first I am on the surface of my consciousness, then I begin to look at my thoughts and feelings, and then I begin to also confront my shadows and darker parts, which in the beginning appeared very, very scary, and I dared not go there and touch them. So that also is a journey. So it's an outward human journey, and then it's inward journey of consciousness. That as awareness we go deeper and deeper into our being, our own being. But now he hears the sound of larger seas. So something deep and vast calls me, and I feel compelled to make this journey. Yeah. So anyone who
May,
feels ready?
may,
Yes.
may I read, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah, please. Please.
A widening world calls him to distant scenes and journeyings in a larger vision's arc, and peoples unknown and still unvisited shores.
Yeah. So now his world, as if is widening. Now he's not just keeping himself to the comfort of his family, relatives, the coastal area, not going plunging deeper into the sea. Now he's ready to take risks, greater risks. A widening world calls him to distant scenes. This also happens many a times in our lives when we cross our comfort zones, that there is a call from within and maybe outward. And although we have no surety, there is no certainty what would happen, yet we feel that, okay, let us take the plunge. So this is a call, a call, widening world calls him to distant scenes and journeyings in a larger vision's arc and people's unknown and still unvisited shores. So he feels compelled to go towards the horizon, which so far he was just looking at it. Now he feels compelled to make the journey towards the horizon. What is out there? Let me see. And people's unknown, he would not know what kind of people he would, it would not be the same culture, it would be different culture, but I want to now travel, I feel confident in myself, the ego feels confident in itself, the personality is a little developed, and people's unknown and still unvisited shores. So there may be still comfort zones there also that he will develop, but they are unvisited. He has not yet witnessed these parts in himself. So something out in the unknown calls him. And then he goes further, elaborating upon it. Yeah. So, Raviji, would you like to read?
Yeah, I'll read. On a commissioned keel, a widening world calls into distant scenes and journeyings in a larger vision's arc, and peoples unknown and still unvisited shores. On a commissioned keel, his merchant hull serves the world's commerce in the riches of time, severing the foam of a great landlocked sea to reach unknown harbor lights in distant climes, and open markets for life's opulent arts, rich bales, carved statuettes, hued canvases, and jeweled toys brought for an infant's play, and perishable products of hard toil, and transient splendors won and lost by the days.
Yeah. So now he begins to work for profit. Now he is not just exploring, he is exploring for profit. And I think Sri Aurobindo also is taking references from how in the beginning the Greeks, in the beginning, they started to explore the Mediterranean Sea and uh, cross the even the Atlantic later on, alongside the coastline first and then going into the further deeper seas. So now he works for some profit. He gets something as a reward. Not only as a reward, but it's like he's exploring for profit. On a commissioned keel, his merchant hull. So the merchant ship is now, it's for some profit that he is exploring, serves the world's commerce in the riches of time. I think I also connect this with how when we explore our own consciousness, our own desires, our own ambitions, when we begin to explore this all, it's as if that we are making a contribution to the whole collective human evolution. So if I am able to go close to a desire and observe the root of desire and see how desires mostly make me suffer, so when I'm exploring this like a journey for myself, I'm also in the riches of time, in the in the collective evolution, I'm actually uh, contributing like a drop in the collective human evolution. So he serves the world's commerce. So the whole human journey, each one of us is contributing in that journey. And whatever journey I make within myself, I'm actually contributing a drop in the whole collective journey of human as a human being. Now I travel away from landlocked sea, like I travel further, savoring the foam of a great landlocked sea, also referring to the Mediterranean, landlocked, and savoring the foam. So foam usually is on the upper part, the close to the shore where the waves crash and there is foam. Now I am severing, like I am cutting off that connection with the land and I am going into the depths and breadths of the ocean. So it's not only the coastline and the comfortable areas that I want to explore. Severing the foam of a great landlocked sea to reach unknown harbor lights in distant climes. So even the climates would be different where I would be embarking to. Unknown harbor lights. So I have no idea where I am heading. I'm heading in the unknown. But there is a confidence in the being, and that's why the journey is taking place. And open markets for life's opulent arts, rich bales, carved statuettes, hued canvases. So, this exchange of emotions, I think, also referring to our vital development, our emotional development, that how first we uh, just explore the physical world, this much of physical comfort, that much of physical comfort, then we go deeper into our emotions and explore the aesthetic part of it. So art, music, all these beautiful things that are made by handmade handcrafts and all that, it's a lot of feeling that goes into it. So that's the vital part of human beings. So exploring our vital emotional feeling part also, which is full of aesthetics, jewel toys brought for an infant's play, and perishable products of hard toil. So, although these beautiful things that we make out of our feelings, they are beautiful and they require a lot of hard work and effort, and yet they are perishable, and yet it doesn't stop us from dealing in that. So if you get some emotional reward, like somebody gives you a lot of love and praise and whatever, emotional security, we don't say that, oh, I don't want to take it because it will hurt me, because this is impermanent. We just take it, we accept it on the way. And that's because this has a point, like, or everything has a right place in this human evolution. So this little emotional satisfactions that we get on the way, perishable products, although they are perishable, since everything is fleeting and impermanent in this material universe, and it's because it's a work of hard toil, like a lot of labor and emotional investment we do in this, all this that we create, and either they are relationships or our own house that we create with so much of love, and yet it gives some momentary satisfaction, and we deal with that. We exchange our satisfactions with other people. Perishable products of hard toil and transient splendors won and lost by the days. So they are so transient. And if we look back at our life, it just would look like, where is half of the life gone? More than half, where is all that gone? But while it was happening, it meant a lot, whenever those transient splendors came in our life. But now, if we look back, then we would say it's so fleeting. It comes and goes, and we don't even realize. Won and lost by the days. And yet, all of that somehow has a place in human evolution. And then he would lead us later to where all this is leading to, all this development of human consciousness. Yeah. So we'll go further.
There is no,
Yes, please, Mohanji. Yeah.
or passing through a gate of pillar rocks, venturing not yet to cross oceans unnamed, and journey into a dream of distances. He travels close to unfamiliar coasts and new finds new haven in storm-troubled islands, islands, or guided by a sure compass in his thought. He plunges through a bright haze that hides the stars, steering on the trade routes of ignorance. Thank you.
Thank you. So the journey continues, and he leaves as human beings, we leave the comfort zones, the coastline, and go forward into the breadths, or passing through a gate of pillar locks, venturing not yet to cross oceans unnamed, and journey into a dream of distances. So, distances only that we can dream about. He travels close to unfamiliar coasts. So, although he's traveling still close to the borderline, like the land, yet, or to the comfortable zones, yet these zones are unfamiliar. So, he's finding new and new levels in himself where he feels now familiar. Slowly, the more he explores, he feels familiar. And just like that, in our own individual journeys, the more deeper we touch our own inner movements. In the beginning, we feel very uncomfortable touching our jealousy, touching knowing that I have anger, knowing that I have hate and blame and ill will. It appears very weird in the beginning because I have seen all that only in other people. But the more I touch them, the more close I go to them, then they appear very familiar. Like I don't need to run away from them, so I can explore these coastlines. I don't have to be afraid of them, going close to anger, going close to jealousy, all the inner movements. So, as consciousness, I can explore the movements in consciousness. Hmm? He travels close to unfamiliar coasts and finds new heaven in storm troubled isles. So, new ports, I become more and more comfortable in myself, in whatever I discover as consciousness within my being. So, there are so many things that we discover the more close we go to our own inner movements, all kinds of thought patterns that we are all the time engaged in, seeing the monkey mind, how it jumps from here and there. So, as an explorer of the depth of consciousness, also, we become more and more comfortable with our own self, all the movements and ripples of our own being, and also referring to the global outward movement of a human being, that the more comfortable he becomes with earth and oceans and coral reefs and all the forests and rainforests, and then he says that, okay, I'm now ready, I would go into the space further. I can leave earth now. And storm troubled isles, I can also relate with that those difficult times in our lives, storm troubled, where nothing seems really clear. And yet, we, owing to the fact that we always seek towards light, we are always able to find our kind of a settlement, that even if things may not be outwardly okay, and not, they are not happening as I would want them to happen, yet I am okay with whatever is. So it is a storm troubled place, and yet I have found a temporary settlement that I can be okay being not okay. So something in me finds rest, uh, or like an intermediary rest in the middle of that confusion and chaos of the outward life. Or guided by a sure compass in his thought, he plunges through a bright haze that hides the stars. So, this bright haze is the haze of our thinking mind. And this thinking mind is like a veil in front of the true knowledge that resides in the depths of our own being. But since we have no other way but to chart in the beginning the way through our thinking mind, so we are so surely marching forward, sure compass in his thought that okay, I have calculated on my paper, these are the pros and these are the cons, and hence I would take this decision according to the calculation. But all of us know how hazy that calculation is, how limited our thinking mind is. No matter how brightly analytical we may be, we would never be able to really know why things happen the way they happen, the greater purpose of things. So the thinking mind is like a bright haze. It is bright, but it's hazy. It gives us some light, but not also hides the clarity of our own being. And masters have said that the nature of mind, the true nature of mind, essence of our true self, its clarity, its wisdom, its intelligence, a light which is without any darkness. But because we are not able to, from the very beginning, establish ourselves in this clarity, the gap between two thoughts, for example, the stillness that is there in between two thoughts. So when we are not able to establish ourselves there in the nature of mind, then all that we can do is to struggle and toil through the thinking mind, because we want to reach some level of clarity in our life. So what do I do? The only thing I see is the thinking mind. Thoughts help me to chart a way across, so I use them. And even that may have a purpose, as we grow up. But slowly, as we have grown enough as adults, it is time for us to really uh, stabilize ourselves in the true nature of mind, which is clarity, emptiness, wisdom, and light without darkness, clear sightedness, a consciousness that just knows. There is no doubt there. Mind is always with a doubt whether I should take this step or not take this step. But that clarity that comes from our true being, if we stabilize ourselves there in that clarity, the gap and stillness between two thoughts, then what we get to know is the knowing itself. There is no doubt. It's almost like as if there are monsoon clouds on the sky and they are veiling the blue sky. The blue sky is not visible, but there are patches of blue sky that may be visible. Now, those patches are revealing to me the true nature of the sky, which is the blue sky, clear blue sky. But since my focus is always on the thoughts, I'm always trying to connect dots in the thoughts. That's why my vision always remains hazy. So the blue sky doesn't mean anything for me. It's only the clouds that are there I see. Hmm? But somehow that is our journey as human consciousness evolves. So he plunges through a bright haze that hides the stars. It is hiding the true essence. It is hiding the light that is there, the clarity that is there. Yet that's my only compass at the moment, steering on the trade routes of ignorance. So the mind that is given to us, the thinking, that is the thinking mind, is full of ignorance. It's a half lit mind. And once I have developed enough as a human being, it is time for me to offer it. That's where surrender comes into the picture. It is time for me to say that I really don't know. I can't know the truth of things if I continue to use this thinking mind only as my knowing mechanism. And that is why masters, mystics, they all spend a lot of time in solitude, stabilizing them, stabilizing themselves in this silence and stillness, which is the nature of the mind, the blue sky of our true being, which is very important. Because the more we stabilize ourselves there, the more wisdom, compassion, kindness, all those positive qualities of the being, they arise from there, the blue sky of our true being. But as we said, that everything has a purpose in human evolution. So thinking mind also first needs to develop enough now that I can surrender it. And then he further goes into the unknown. Sri Aurobindo shares a further picture for us. Yeah.
His prow pushes towards undiscovered shores. He chances on unimagined continents, a seeker of the islands of the blessed. He leaves the last lands, crosses the ultimate seas. He turns to eternal things as symbol quest. Life changes for him. It's time constructed scenes. Its images veiling infinite.
Yes, thank you. So now, as that consciousness evolves, as ego individuality evolves, as Mother and Sri Aurobindo would say, ego is the helper, ego is the bar. So, ego is the helper because it helps me create a temporary individuality. Okay, this is me. This is what I think. This is what I feel. So, it helps me from a mass of substance. It helps me to become an individual. Yeah, sorry, I had to pause in between. So, the ego individuality helps us to become an individual, which is a temporary state of individuality. It's not the true individuality that is possible for us, but a temporary state, and it has its own importance. But now I am pushed forward, since there is a seeking towards perfection and more vastness in us human beings. So this pro is the front part of the ship, from where you're looking forward. His pro pushes towards undiscovered shores. So now, as I become confident enough in my being, I say, okay, let me explore those areas in my life which are so far I have not explored, which are unknown to me. So a leap of faith kind of can be taken here. He chances on unimagined continents, just like Columbus did. He chanced upon unimagined continents. He did not know that he was to discover America, for example. He chances on unimagined continents, and just like that, we chance in our own spiritual experiences. We discover so much within us. A seeker of the islands of the blessed. And islands of the blessed is something where they used to think that if there are, people who are dead, they are tying the bodies and pushing them into the sea. So they believe that these bodies, these people are going to heaven, like there would be a place for them where everything will be perfect and pure lands, as if they are sending them there. So always there is a search for more and more clarity, more and more wisdom, more and more depth in our being, vastness in our being. This is somehow the human journey. And so there is a seeking that there would be some place which is be more pure and more full of light and less of suffering. And let me search, let me seek those lands. A seeker for of the islands of the blessed, he leaves the last lands, crosses the ultimate seas. So, in this seeking of perfection, he is able to take a leap of faith and crossing even the depths of the seas. Just like we explored the depths of our own consciousness in our spiritual journey, in our meditative journeys. He turns to eternal things, his symbol quest. So earlier he was dealing with very little mundane things of life, like a house, a property, a girlfriend, a wife, maybe a few kids. Then maybe something to do with more feelings. At the feeling level, you get some satisfaction. But now, when he has explored the vital and the mental part and the physical material existence, he now looks forward to eternal things. Now he turns it into a spiritual quest. Who am I? Where I have come from? Where am I going? What is the purpose of being human? So our quest becomes more, starting from material quest, now then feeling, at the feeling level there is a quest. Then it turns into a spiritual quest, more symbolic, and more turning to eternal things, things which are immutable and everlasting. So when he has had enough of impermanent experience in material existence, now he turns his gaze towards something immortal, turns towards immortality. Life changes for him, its time constructed scenes, its images veiling infinity. And now all those scenes that were in time, coming and going and coming and going, uh, that changes for him. They were nothing but a veil in front of infinity, which was masked by the time constructed scenes. So all the time as he was exploring the material world, the world of feelings, vital world, this world of infinity was as if waiting for him to get mature and ripened, so that he can look towards this world also. Hmm? And all the images, the fleeting impermanence of life, they were nothing but a veil in front of impermanent something, sorry, permanent something, a lasting, everlasting, eternal, infinity, the background of which all this was happening. So now he turns his gaze towards infinity. Now his quest becomes eternal and spiritual. How we begin to discover our own depths and realize who we truly are. So our quest slowly becomes more spiritual.
What is blessed, madam?
So
Really,
yeah, blessed is a, so what I was reading, going through, Shraddha Vansh, when she shares the commentary on English of Savitri. So she was sharing that in earlier times, in the Western Europe somewhere, they
uh,
used to think that if they are sending the bodies, which are dead bodies, away in the ocean, that they will land up into some far island of blessed, where it's something like a heaven, that all these bodies are going into some pure land. So that is what I could understand.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So if anyone who feels ready could read the lines in yellow.
May I read, madam?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Earth's borders recede, and the terrestrial air hangs around him no longer its translucent veil. He has crossed the limit of moral thought and hope. He has reached the world's end and stares beyond. The eyes of mortal body plunge their gaze into eyes that look upon eternity, a greater world time's traveler must explore. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So now he's ready to leave the material. We, so long in our human lives, we are craving for material satisfaction. Aren't we? Either craving material satisfaction through what we were sharing earlier, property, college, money, fame, respect, good job, all that, or in terms of feelings, emotional attachments, with our relationships or wherever we have. So we are always craving for this contentment within the earth, the material existence. But now, the more we have explored this, we become confident enough to leave all that behind. that we know that there is nothing permanent that I can get from the material existence. Earth's border recede and the terrestrial air hangs around him, no longer its translucent veil. Also referring to, as we become confident as human beings, we are ready to leave the earth and journey into space. We're journeying into on the Mars, for example, on the moon. We are ready to leave the familiar earth's air where we are so comfortable, and ready to go into deep into the unknown where anything can happen anytime. But we are ready to take that risk. Earth's borders recede, and the terrestrial here, which is the air of material earth, the physical manifestation, the earth. Or in terms of consciousness, we can also say that I have known the physical material existence, and I see that everything is fleeting, nothing is permanent here. I have only transient happinesses that come and go. Uh, and now I am ready to explore further that what is this something which is lasting? What is that? So, journeying towards more and more perfection. Now I'm ready, and the terrestrial air hangs round him, no longer its translucent veil. So now the word that comes to me is disenchantment. That one is disenchanted from the material existence. There are fleeting joys and happinesses, but these joys and happinesses leaves us very empty, like as if there must be something more to life than craving for these little satisfactions. So now it is not a veil in front of me as I go deeper in my being and explore my own consciousness. Earlier, all this glitter from the worldly life was a distraction. I was enchanted towards everything, towards job, new country, going, settling down in a new country, or maybe having a new partner. But when we have done that enough, it doesn't enchant me any longer. So one gets disenchanted from the earthly atmosphere, and one goes deeper into oneself in the journeying of consciousness. So this terrestrial air is no longer a translucent veil. It doesn't veil my journey now. He has crossed the limit of mortal thought and hope. So when we are ready to cross this uh, two poles of duality, hope and fear, we are always hoping that things will turn in the way I want, fearing that what if the things don't turn the way I want. And in that, we are always getting grinded, for example. Hmm? Now I have crossed that limit. The human being crosses that limit. That there would be some world, there would be some life possible where I don't have to get constantly grinded in between hope and fear and hope and fear. What mother would say, becoming desireless. There is a life possible without any desires after we have ripened enough. Only when we are in touch with our true source. Because we see that the more we run after desires, after sometimes the same pleasure brings me pain. The same person that I stick to for pleasure, the same person will bring me suffering after some time. So once I've done that enough, then I'm ready. I have crossed the limit of mortal thought and hope. And mortal thought has its own limits, as we were discussing earlier, that the thinking mind has its own limits and it cannot see clearly. He has reached the world's end and stares beyond. So all that he wanted to explore in the material earthly realm, he has explored it, and he stares beyond. Either we can outwardly say how we look towards other planets and wanting to know other galaxies and how many earth like planets may be there, what's happening out there in the universe, or within my own consciousness, what are the possibilities for me apart from material and emotional satisfactions? Who am I truly? So, exploring the world of the spirit or the consciousness, he has reached the world's end and stares beyond. The eyes of mortal body plunge their gaze into eyes that look upon eternity. So now, from a mortal gaze which always looked to whatever is material, appearances, the surface living, now it plunges into the eyes which look into the eternity. So, as if the shift of consciousness is happening. Earlier, I was living on the surface and hence always wanting, desiring, and wanting my ambitions and greed and all that to be satisfied. And now, a shift of consciousness has taken place where, as a spirit, one is ready to take the deeper plunge, into eyes that look upon eternity. A greater world time travelers must explore. So now the soul consciousness is ready to explore further beyond the material manifestation. Go into the depths of things, the root cause of everything. And just like in quantum physics, we are now wanting to find, is there a God's particle? Is how is consciousness generated? They're wanting to know that how is consciousness generated in our being. And I feel that one would not be able to find that how is consciousness generated, because consciousness is not generator of physical manifestation. Physical manifestation is not generating consciousness. Consciousness is generating the physical world. So it would be very hard for us to find, hard, not even hard, almost impossible for us to find a particle which is the generator of consciousness. So it's impossible. It's only possible that we can recognize that we are that consciousness that is responsible for the material world. And maybe in future we'll be able to recognize it and know it more as a concrete reality. And just like in quantum physics, they also nowadays have this electrons, that whether it is a wave or a particle, and they say that one cannot know whether it will behave like a wave or a particle, and it depends on who is looking. So the consciousness that is looking is actually creating its reality out there, whether it will behave like a wave or a particle. So it's a very, I would say, very groundbreaking research in terms of consciousness research, what people are doing, to see that the one who is looking is responsible to create what is happening out there. And it has a lot of implication also for, I think, for our day to day human life, because we think that things are happening to me. Outwardly there are things which are happening to me and I can't do anything about it. But when this is true, that I, as a consciousness, as an observer, I am able to change the reality out there, whether the electron will behave like a wave or a particle, then when I shift in my consciousness, I am also able to change my relationships or work, or the life that I have, the outward life. So I think it has a very strong implication for how we live a life, that the moment I shift my consciousness, I take care of my own inner work and inner journey, things out there also shift. So yeah, I think it's very powerful. It gives us a lot of power. Yeah, so I think we can maybe pause here today and take the rest next time. Any reflections? Any sharing? Anyone?
No, it is wonderful the way you ended it. Great. Consciousness.
Yeah, I find it very exciting. Also the research, how it tallies with quantum physics. Very interesting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Raviji, Mohanji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
madam.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye bye.